Noah, are you ready to talk about Prince?
No, let's
Okay.
start. We're mostly going to talk about Purple Rain today. Purple Rain was a movie and an album. And the movie is kind of a classic, but it's very of its time. But it does do its job, which is the intention was for Prince, I want to make something that showcases my talent because he felt like he wasn't quite getting the appreciation that he deserved. And he wanted to make something that really put it all up front. And it worked.
I mean, man, the album and the movie, they just reek of somebody with complete creative control.
Yeah, I mean, because he was there were lots of decisions that he would make that if there was someone else in the boardroom meeting kind of thing, they'd be like, well, that's not going to play well to this audience, so that's not going to be, but he would just do it anyway. Particularly in this era of Prince, it was very like maximalist, like his look with the frilly shirt and the lots of like women's clothes and big hair and the shoulder pads, the kind of quintessential 80s look. It was all there. Earlier Prince albums, 1999 had a kind of maximalist thing going on as well. But prior to that, he had a more stripped back, focused sound. And then around this era is when it was like drum machines, synthesizers, guitars, vocals, background vocals, all of these elements coming in throughout the song.
Yeah, he really committed to, like you said, drum machine. I think the Linn drum is all over this album. It gives it a weird, it kind of sticks it right in the 80s, but then also makes it timeless because the way he messed around with the drum machine was really
Well,
unique.
sometimes, like, if you would have listened to Purple Rain in the 90s, you would have been like, man, that's so dated. But then you give things a little bit more time, and then it kind of comes full circle where it still definitely reeks of the 80s, but because there are more artists now that pull from those sounds, it kind of feels, there are certain tracks that have a production sound that would sit right along a bunch of alternative acts today. Also, the revolution is all over this album. Like, Prince did a lot, I think all of his albums prior to this, I can't speak for 1999, but he would track all the instruments. He was like a solo project. And then on this album, the revolution really comes forward, where he's got a drummer, a bassist, keyboardist, and two guitarists, and they are playing on most of the tracks. They are the backing band to him. I think the only song that is a full Prince piece is When Doves Cry. That's the only song where he plays all the instruments. The rest have parts of the band, The Revolution, in it.
Interesting.
And the songwriting was also aided by being in a band. Like, I know Purple Rain, the song Purple Rain started as a country song that he was going to play with, he wanted Stevie Nicks on it. And he wanted her to write the lyrics. And then she said, that's too much pressure, I don't think it's right for me. And so he started jamming the song with the band, and over the course of like a day of them playing through it, they kind of found a different sound for it.
Yeah, Prince was so creative. He was such a good songwriter. I mean, he wrote songs for so many artists. I didn't know that about Purple Rain and Stevie Nicks, but I know like he wrote Manic Monday, which was a huge hit
For the Bangles?
for the Bangles. He wrote, I know Kiss was originally, he gave to a different artist.
His bassist from the Revolution, I think that's who he gave it to.
Oh, really?
And then the bassist worked on it, and then he
And then
took
he
it
went,
back.
hey, I'm taking that back.
Yeah, that's a whole other story for
Yeah.
another time.
Oh, Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You, also a Prince song. I mean, he was pretty unbelievable. To me, Purple Rain, the song, I know it's one of his biggest songs. It's awesome, but to me, When Doves Cry is the track. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was a standout at the time. No bass. Pretty stripped back production, especially for pop in the mid 80s. We talked about Thriller already, but Thriller has a lot going on. And this album has a lot going on, but When Doves Cry, very stripped back. That particular track doesn't have, it's pretty simple. It's drum machine, a little bit of guitar here and there, a little bit of synth, and then that lead vocal. Mm-hmm. It's really really focused on the personality of the production.
It's also really intense. It's a really intense song, and the lyrics are a bit left of center for a pop song.
Well, the lyrics line up with the story of the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has like an abusive family, or his dad is abusive, and so it kind of lines up there. I don't believe Prince actually had an abusive dad. His dad was like a jazz musician.
No, it's probably just
Could be wrong. I'd have to look into
motivation
that,
for
but-
the film.
Yeah,
for
for
the
the
story
film.
of the film. Actually, his dad has a co-writing credit on Computer Blue.
Yeah, he took a piece that he'd written.
Yeah,
Yeah, and kind of incorporated it into that.
which is kind of interesting. It just dawned on me that, again, this is on the spine of the record. It says like music from the motion picture, Purple Rain.
Yeah.
Prince actually convinced his record label to allow him to make a film, a feature film. Think about that in today's, think about
And
how
here's the
crazy
better
that
part. He won an Oscar for it. And 2 Grammys or 3 Grammys. Let's just talk about the movie for a second, because the concept for the movie and the execution of the movie is very funny. It's fiction, but there are real bands from Minneapolis in it,
Yeah.
and they use their actual names. So like Morris Day is the villain, and in the movie his name is Morris. And Prince is in there, and his band is in there. Like the character Lisa in the movie is his guitarist Lisa. Like they're all using their actual names.
Yeah. How much of this was Purple Rain just a spite project?
I don't know if it's
for
spite,
Prince?
but it's a funny way to like create mythos,
Yeah.
because the line starts to blur between who is Prince the actual guy and Prince the character from the movie. Now, of course, this probably was to the detriment of a guy like Morris Day, who now in real life people are like, "Are you like an evil? Are you like an
Evil artist?
evil artist trying to take down other people's careers?" Again, the movie is about bands and like this kind of competition feud between them in this city. And there's all these, again, extended live performance pieces where you're basically just advertising your tour.
Yeah.
But it works.
It totally worked. I mean, financially it worked, and that's all really the record label cared about.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't have greenlit the project if it wasn't Prince. You know, he was coming off of 1999.
Yeah. I also just want to quickly mention that it was directed by the director of Tango and Cash. Just throwing that out there.
Actually?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that. I'm so happy you saved that.
For on camera. Yeah, he is the director of Tango and Cash.
Tango and Cash, unless, I don't know, maybe you guys know or you don't
Just
know.
go watch Tango and Cash, honestly.
It's the best, worst movie ever.
Yeah.
Well, in our opinion, yeah.
Actually, similar to Tango and Cash, Purple Rain is it's like a time capsule.
Yeah.
You watch it and you're like, okay, this is what was seen as very, very cool in the mid 80s, in the early to mid 80s. This is like the peak of cool in that era, you know, all of the look of it and the feel, and the purifying in the Lake Minnetonka.
The power of Prince.
I don't know how Prince made it look cool to like ride a motorcycle that's too big for you, but he did.
He made everything look cool. Yeah.
Feel how it trembles inside.
Prince, here's the one thing I will say about Prince. Prince is the epitome of no one will believe in you as much as you. Like, Prince believes he was a genius. And again, I think he is wildly talented, but I think through almost sheer willpower alone, he convinced a lot of people that he was.
Yeah.
And there's lots of other artists that have done this. You know, there's a certain point where just complete confidence in your vision as an artist does pay off if you can just commit to it fully. Some people are going to hate it, but you will find an audience, and he found like his diehard audience. And this is around the era where Prince became he was a titan of the industry. It's like he's one of the big acts that you have to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Hold on. Actually, we haven't mentioned this yet. We do need to. We'll throw a little compilation. We'll show them all. I love Prince. He undoubtedly has the worst album art of any artist ever.
For sure.
It's crazy. some of them
rivaling us.
have rivaling us. Some of his album arts have like Microsoft font, like like word art from like PowerPoint, and like terrible Photoshop and weird cartoons. It's again because he was like the spearheading
Yeah.
kind of he was creating the vibe for everything, and he was dictating the look.
Yeah.
If he ever made a bad choice, no one was there to say, Prince, that's a bad choice.
I'd like to imagine he had like, Windows 98 or whatever, and he was actually like creating his own art.
That looks really good.
Can I see that for a sec? I mean, yeah, it goes back to he made all of his own decisions. The worst thing in the world is to I don't even know if you can make this out, but the lyric sheet here, the worst thing you can do is stare at water when there's a reflection, like the sun.
Yeah.
It's blinding. And he put his lyrics on top of that.
Yeah.
It's a photo of...
It's a photo of the purifying waters of Lake Minnetonka.
It's absurd. But that's why he's great. Really, that is why he's great. There's nothing interesting about an artist where everything's
There's
perfect.
there's nothing interesting about perfection. We were actually talking about this the other day with like Bowie, Prince. There's a couple of other artists like this. The real musical geniuses release bad albums.
Yeah.
Because inevitably, if you're constantly reaching for something unique, you're gonna fail. Yeah. You're gonna release something that's bad.
Yeah, anytime an artist makes something that's really clearly one type of thing, it's so boring. All the interesting art is made in the gray area,
And it's also really easy to tread the same water that people have tread before.
Yeah.
It gets harder once you're trying to actually have something come out of the speakers and it sounds fresh. And Purple Rain definitely did that.